So, Mr. Wells.
Yes, sir.
I was at FanX a while ago. It's Salt Lake's Comic Con.
That's good.
And
I
I got
not.
handed this giant gift. And I'm like, oh, that looks cool. And they're like, well, it's not for you. But a very nice letter was for me.
Okay.
And I'm going to read you. There's a whole bunch of very sweet but kind of personal stuff that they write. This is from Ryan, and he says, once again, thank you. As a token of my appreciation, I wanted to give you something. But what do you give to someone who possibly has anything they could want or need? Nice, very nice way of saying I'm bougie. So my gift to you is a smile on your friend's face. Maybe even a chuckle. The present is a gift for Dan. It is something he specifically requested. I hope you both enjoy your gifts. I have not opened this, though Scar can vouch for the person. So,
Yes, I can.
Oh, my stars.
So most people, if you send us a gift, which we would happily accept, they will be looked at by Scar or someone like that. This one has not been.
This one has not been vetted. We're just going to open it.
We know that
right here.
Scar knows this person from the guard. So,
okay. Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know what this is. It's somewhat heavy.
It is heavy.
It's and it has Baby Yoda wrapping paper.
Oh. It is. Oh my gracious. Oh my gracious. This is Stranger Things Legos. This is something I mentioned as wanting to get.
Wow.
Wow.
That's cool.
That's insane. That's... Whoever did this did not have to do this.
His name is Ryan.
Well, Ryan, thank you very much. You've made me very happy. I'm very bad at taking wrapping paper off of stuff, as you can tell. I'm just going to put it down here.
That's a super cool set. The upside down is upside down.
It has the upside down hanging underneath the other thing.
How do you display that? Is it like, how do you set, it's got an upside down house. Is there like a heavier part behind, so you set it on a ledge?
Or it has pillars or something on it?
From what I remember of the set, it's pillar-based system on the right and left. It'll hold it both ways.
This is a very Lego-centric workplace.
Yes.
And so I don't have a lot of Legos to display. Now I have a really cool Lego set to display.
That was given to you by a fan of the podcast.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now I need to do something nice for Ryan.
Yeah, well, you could probably build it and then show it.
And then show it off.
Yes, display.
That's what we need to do.
How cool it is. Yes, there are a lot of Legos in this office.
Yeah, there are.
Everyone you walk past, someone started doing them. I guess they all just started doing them. So you kind of identify your fandom by way of which Legos you have displayed in our offices.
Yeah.
We, at some point, I can at least vouch for myself, there was a table in our break room, and I contributed heavily to this. I put probably about 15, 20 sets that I just didn't want anymore. A lot of those were to be given away. They were given away. They never left. They just ended up back on people's desks.
Here displayed, huh?
Here displayed. We just have a huge Lego community.
We need to get Legos of our stuff. There's one on Lego Creations or whatever that someone that you can all go vote for if you want. I think they have a little time left on it. But that's like the Lego then reviews it if it gets a certain number of votes.
Is that like a Lego Chasm Fiend or something?
It's a really cool build.
Awesome.
And
well, that's very cool.
So
I would love some
appropriate if we're doing
Roshar Legos.
Yeah.
You have another gift?
Snuck in by our things. This is a
we've got a Lego
Paladin
that someone made.
From our fans. I saw this the other day. Another Ryan. Whom we can thank. But I saw this on our table.
Oh,
we're gonna talk
Ryan.
Lego. We might as well.
Thank you for the Lego
Caladin.
Let you have a look at that.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Thank you, Ryan.
Yeah, we need to get Legos. I don't know if we're there yet, right?
It's hard, and it's also.
Do you have a wireless
I was gonna say I'll pop back on my my mic over here.
You saw it. Your dad did it for Fortnite.
Yes.
And kind of you saw the machine of Lego and how it worked kind of behind the scenes.
Yeah. It's the big thing, and a lot of the Lego community can attest to this. Lego will never or attempt to never touch things with quote unquote war. Star Wars is basically the only sets that have gotten away with it at present moment because they have, well, it's called Star Wars. There is war in it. I don't know how much I can say, but I know that Lego took a while with Fortnite because of the nature of the game and certain things in the game. So who or how they would touch
did they eventually do?
Yeah, there are official.
I mean,
Fortnite.
It's not just, but they've done Marvel.
Yeah,
they've done. I don't know, like.
Yeah.
Like, come on! They had spaceships shooting lasers at each other when I was a kid. They did night castles, and they still do them. I do not know how. Like, yes, they want their image to be child friendly. I guess that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
But
this to me reads like. On all things, it's who you know. And Lego being, of course, the big
player.
Big player. It's basically who at Lego is willing to champion your product and be like, I like this, and I think we can make something cool with it.
Yeah. I mean, at the same time, I don't know that I would go to Lego right now and be like, you need to do Lego Stormlight Archive.
Right.
So I don't think we sell in the numbers that would make sense for them, like a Lego Ideas or a limited edition sort of thing. Yes, like I think we could sell something like that, but just on store shelves.
Right.
Yeah. Like I wouldn't lie and go to Lego.
We're not putting down Lego numbers.
Yeah. We do very good numbers. But we do to like a lot of our books are sold to the same audience, and so
yeah.
But at the same time, they did do a Lego Flatiron building.
Yep.
How many people want a Lego Flatiron building? I bet there are as many people who would want a Lego Stormlight Archive as want a Lego Flatiron building, because I have the Flatiron building.
Probably. You have a Lego Flatiron building.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. It's official Lego product. So maybe not on store shelves as much, but they do a lot of these things kind of that are more niche.
So my son turned 16 a few months ago.
Okay.
And we got him the Lego Acropolis.
Okay.
One from their architectural set. And he opened it up, and the first thing he said was, "Perfect! Now my empire shall have a god king." So that's my son for you.
Was there a Zeus in there?
No, he's the god king.
Oh, okay.
But now they'll be able to worship him properly, I think was the implication there.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know. He's awesome.
He is awesome. Is this Pepsi, gun, gun, gun?
Yeah, this is.
Pepsi, gun, gun, gun. And if you don't know what that means, it's a deep cut from a previous podcast.
Yeah, I can't remember when that came out, but we have described that. Do you want to hear a really
heist?
Cool food heist?
I do, absolutely.
Okay, so this one is an actual heist with an actual heist team.
Wow.
And it's a series of them.
Oh, ooh.
This is ongoing in the UK right now.
Yeah. So it's like the Burglar, we've got multiple heists going on.
Multiple heists. It is a shoplifting gang.
Okay.
Which has stolen at least 73,000 pounds worth of champagne and other goods across the UK. They operate in teams of 3. They use Bluetooth headsets to coordinate with each other. They have, someone on the team is in charge of distracting the security, which they often do by setting off the alarm so that then all the security staff comes and talks to them while someone else walks out another door with a whole bunch of champagne bottles. They describe it as a mafia-style operation that is run like a business.
Okay. Well, I mean, this one writes itself, right?
Oh, yeah.
The champagnes with an SHAM. Right. I mean,
the champagnes.
Yeah. It's right there.
That sounds like a band.
Oh, yeah. I mean, so does the Burglars. Right? The Snackaderms. Tell me the Snackaderms does not sound like a band.
Snackaderms does sound like it'd be a pretty cool band.
Yeah. And the
Champagnes are opening for the Struts this weekend in Bristol.
Speaking of which, I went to a concert, Dan.
You went to a concert without me?
You spent all this time trying to get me to go to a concert, right?
Mm-hmm.
You worked and you worked and you worked. And then my son's favorite band is Imagine Dragons, my 11-year-old.
Awesome.
And we saw they were coming. So I just said to my assistant, hey, see if they have Brandon seats. This is the thing you haven't been able to confirm for me.
I have not, no.
And she came back and said, oh, do they?
Which venue was this?
This was USANA, which is now the America First.
Yeah, the Utah First Credit Union.
Yeah. So
they have Brandon seats there?
They have Brandon seats. Oh,
whoa,
do they?
Okay.
So the Brandon seats were like...
This changes everything.
It was like not in the mosh pit, like the mosh pit that was Imagine Dragons didn't have one of those, but it was like was other seats, but right up one tier from that, a little bit elevated, there was a box for us that it's not a box, like it didn't have walls, it had railings, but they were permanent railings.
Mm-hmm.
At the back was a counter full of food.
Nice.
And a fridge.
Okay.
And then in front of that was like a bar stool table type thing that could fit 4 people. Then there was a couch in front of that, down a little bit. And then in front of that, more bar stool tables.
Wow.
So
see, I didn't know they had this.
And it was like basically 50-yard line. It's where next to us, the official photographers were coming to take pictures of the band.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like perfect location, perfect things. And I was able to sit there on a couch with my feet up on a footstool and be like, yes, I can imagine those dragons well.
Indeed, music.
Yes. Oh, the active is radioed.
That's awesome.
Or is it the radio is active? And I brought, we could have 12 people. So I brought, Scar came along just to like actually be security dude. And then the rest was family members and things. And I got to sit and have a cheeseburger and fries and fancy water and snacks while Imagine Dragons played their hits.
Well, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you got to go to a concert.
I should have invited you, but you were gone.
I was gone. I've been gone a lot.
You were like, I think you were on the cruise at that point.
Probably.
But it's kind of funny that, number one, they had Brandon seats. Like, exactly what I have wanted. And I could see the band the whole time because no one could stand up in front of me because of the way the tier system worked.
Yeah.
And I could enjoy the music in the way that I like to enjoy the music. And it was a great show. I actually sat at the show and emailed the band telling them how great their show was. It was pretty cool.
Do you have a prior connection to that
I
band?
do have a prior connection to the band.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's cool.
They were interested during the album with Thunder and everything on it, maybe releasing a short story collection based on the songs. And so they came and it was more like, hey, Brandon, you know a lot about this. What would it take to actually put this together? And I think the things I told them scared them off because they were like 4 months or 5 months from release. And I basically said, I think people would love to do this, but you got to give them at least a year lead time to write a short story for you. Like 6 months would be like super pushing it, and you only have 4. I just don't think you can. And I mean, printing and binding and sending one of these out, that alone takes 4 months.
Yeah.
If you had all of the stories right now laid out and edited, then maybe you could get them in time for the tour. But yeah.
But I've seen how well that kind of music tie-in anthology sells.
Yeah.
They could do well with it.
And that was a really good album. I like all their music, but that album was in particular really good.
And this album is Evolve for those who are wondering.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, but it was fun to be like, it was a really good show. They put on a great show.
Well, cool.
Yeah.
So does that mean that Dan's plan to take you to a concert is easier now because we know where the Brandon seats are, or
Yes.
B, much harder now because you've been to a concert and I don't need to take you to one?
No, much easier. I would go to anything I was remotely interested in at USANA because I know which box is the Brandon box. Like Becky called and they're like, we have the best one still available. And she's like, you do? But there's like 30 boxes you can get. But then there was this one, and
nice.
I would be back to that. Anytime there was something I was remotely
I actually was
interested
looking at the amphitheater's lineup today.
in. I don't think that they have posted what
They haven't
have.
posted what next year is going to be. There were only 2 things on their list.
Though Billy Joel and Sting
Yes.
are coming
Billy Joel and Sting together?
Yep, but not to USANA. They are going to Rice Eccles, the football stadium.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's presumably got Brandon seats in it.
yeah, but those are going to be up at the top.
Not down in the middle.
Right? Like they have Brandon seats, but I never have wanted to do one of those at a football game. Like when I do a football game, I don't actually buy those because I could just watch the game on TV. If you're going to put me all the way up at the top, hidden away, right? Like, what's at that point, what's the point? To not put too fine a point on it. So if they have boxes on the floor, like I actually want to enjoy the music. I like live music a lot. But I don't want to be crowded, and I don't want to have to stand the whole time.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Cool. Well, I will keep my eyes peeled.
I will deal with my 11-year-old jumping up and down and screaming all the lyrics. I can handle that. But yeah.
Would you say that was your favorite concert you've ever been to?
Yeah. Not a high bar. It depends. Like I'm going to separate in my mind the symphony and things like this, right?
Okay.
Like, is this better than the New York Philharmonic? Well, how can you compare those two things, right?
Right.
Yeah. They're wildly different.
They're just so wildly different. I would say this is the best of this style of concert. Not a high bar because I haven't been to a lot. But it definitely was the best of those. Not just because of the seating, but the show is really good. They did a drum duet that was really cool because once in a while drum solos just get a bit long, but they did kind of a conversational back and forth in the middle of Radioactive where Dan got up on a drum set and their new drummer and he went back and forth like kind of like dueling violins but dueling drums. And they were stacked on top of each other basically. One Dan's was a little bit behind, and they just played back and forth all the way through the middle of that song, and it was awesome. Really, really worked.
Cool.
And every time they shot the confetti cannons of stuff into the air, my kids just flipped out because that is a very cool thing to see with the lights and the confetti coming down and things like that. Except, Dallin, who's 14 and of a particular type of personality, is like, Dad, they're littering. I'm like, you can throw confetti in your own house, Dallin. They can throw confetti in here. They will clean it up. Then he was okay.
Okay, that's good.
So
awesome.
there you go. Imagine Dragons, good tour, good show.
Imagine Dragons.
Go see Imagine Dragons. Like I need to tell people that
they're huge.
They're huge, and very positive, very good messaging without being preachy. Just kind of Dan Reynolds took a moment to talk about like mental health and kind of his journey and be like, I'm in therapy. If you need a model for like a tough guy in therapy, I'm in therapy. It's okay to go to therapy. Stuff like that.
Good for them.
So, yeah,
that's great.
So there you are.
Hooray! So we're like halfway done.
Yes,
we're more than halfway done. We did have a topic.
We do have a
topic
topic
to talk about though.
It's me telling another story. Do you want to hear me tell another story?
I absolutely do.
So I told this story on Reddit recently, and I thought maybe we could discuss my conclusion and premise and see if you agree with it.
Okay.
So people were talking about how it seems like a large number of adaptations of beloved properties have happened lately, TV and film adaptations, that diverge wildly from the source material from day one. And then there have been a couple that don't. And recently, the couple that don't like Last of Us and things have been much better properties. Fallout and Last of Us, which are able to walk that line between adapting and keeping the spirit of the original versus some other things like Borderlands. Rings of Power is like in between these two. I think it was technically on a Rings of Power thread, but I mean, Halo's the worst offender. And with kind of being, there's this sense of like, why are you buying the thing to make it if you're not going to make the thing? And I have a story about this.
Okay.
Earlier in my career, I sold the rights to The Emperor's Soul, which is a quirky little novella, won the Hugo for me. It's kind of a literary piece. It's one room and a woman and the person who's keeping her in prison talking about kind of the nature of art while she tries to figure out an escape before he has her executed, basically. It's not one that Hollywood beat down the doors to get, because what do you do with one room and two characters? The epic fantasy film. I do think there are some ways to take this that would make a great adaptation, but back then I was just shocked that somebody wanted it. I'm like, yes, option this. Like, someone wants to make my quirky little literary piece as an art house film. Great. So they optioned it. It was the screenwriter himself who loved the piece and got the producers to option it. Then, fast forward maybe 2 years, I get the screenplay. And the screenplay for this is a globe-trotting adventure with a love interest who is a pirate captain, time-based magic, nothing to do with, like, just nothing to do with the original. So different that it was shocking to me. And I don't know for certain. I didn't talk to. This is a screenwriter who had some credits. He's a nice guy. He's written some things. It's not like, it was a nobody, but I'm like, I can clearly tell that he had an epic fantasy story that he wanted to tell. And that there was no other way to get his epic fantasy story told in his medium, because no one buys a spec script for an epic fantasy. Spec script is just a screenwriter writes a script and then they take it out and sell it. They do sell once in a while, but it's always a news story when they do, because they sell so infrequently. And I've never heard of one selling for like an epic fantasy property. They always sell for these mid to low budget films, because if you're going to take a chance on, a spec script, the Hollywood thinking is, well, you can't take a chance on something super expensive. Yeah. And I realized it's like people in Hollywood are creative writers who want to tell stories, and the only avenue available to them is to buy an established property, because that's how you get everyone to sign the checks, and then you just tell your own story. That's what I felt was happening. Do you think I'm right? I wonder if that's happened, if that's what happened to Halo? Like, who famously the showrunner, was it, Donald, said, I haven't played the games and I'm not interested in playing the games?
I think it was the showrunner and the writer both kind of came out and were like, yeah, who needs the games?
Yeah.
I know that was the news story recently with the Harry Potter TV adaptation. I think that makes a lot of sense. I don't know if I'm ready to say that they buy these things with the intention of hijacking them.
Yeah.
Or if it's just they end up hijacking them because they have their own ideas and this is the only outlet for them.
I think that's probably more often the case, because I even when I posted on Reddit, I said that. I think part of this might be unconscious. The guy who did it with me, I can't imagine he did it unconsciously. Right. I think he found a story because his story had some Asian themes. That was just an Asian, and the producers had Chinese money.
Okay.
And so he's like, I need something with an Asian theming to convince them all to give me the money. And then I'm just going to write whatever I want, because there wasn't a single element from the story in the final. And he wrote it all by himself. He was in charge of it. It's not like there was it was a feature, so it wasn't like there was a writer's room who tried to break it and couldn't and came up with something else. Like maybe someone he tried something more similar, and those in charge were like, wait a minute, we bought a stupid art house thing, put more action in. Maybe that happened, but certainly didn't feel like it to me.
Interesting.
Because this is the first I'd seen of it. But I think a lot of them, it's unconscious. Like, you finally get to write a sci-fi show, and you are a writer who's always wanted to tell stories. You're like, well, I'm going to tell my story. I've got a really great idea for this. And then it's like, suddenly you have Master Chief dating a member of the Covenant.
Is that what was in the TV show?
Yes.
Well,
have you played any of those games?
I've only played the multiplayer, so I don't know the story.
Master Chief, the stoic super soldier who's genetically altered, who thinks only of, fighting, who never takes his helmet off, as a romance with a member of the alien invading team. And I believe she is like a human that they've captured and raised as their own.
Yes, that's more accurate. I was going to say, it wasn't actually like an elite or anything.
Yeah, when I first heard it, I'm like, she's dating the Arbiter? He's dating the Arbiter? But, which would have been the perfect way to meme it. But they kidnap a human, she's on their side, so that, and then there's a romance. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Halo?
Yeah.
And
they didn't get to the Halo till the last episode?
Nope.
Yeah.
And then it gets worse. They tried in season 2, and if I'm incorrect, correct me for anyone who's watched it. I think they even try and go the Cortana route as well.
Oh, romance Cortana as well?
In the second season, they're like, well, we've got another girl character, so...
I mean, that one's more natural, but it doesn't really fit with Halo, right?
No.
Just part of the whole Halo thing, and I know the later movies... or later games mess this up. Part of the whole Halo thing is like, these are working professionals who have a really great relationship and they work together, and that's great. We like that. Halo doesn't need romance. Halo has zombies. So
it feels to me like a lot of this stuff doesn't come down to the writers as the bad guys.
Yeah, I would. The system is really... Like, there's so many things. If they were willing to take a chance on spec scripts, like, your writers in Hollywood are good writers.
Yeah.
If you would take a chance on their spec scripts now and then, maybe they wouldn't feel like, pressured to only write on other people's stuff. I mean, I wrote 3 books in the Wheel of Time because it was like one of my favorite series, and that feels like when Peter Jackson made Lord of the Rings, or when Denis made Dune, right? Like, obvious passionate love for the source material translating into an adaptation that does have their own touch on it, because an adaptation can't but really lovingly done. I would say no to a lot of other properties. In fact, virtually everything that someone would come to me, because I don't have that same passion. I feel like if you're a Hollywood writer, you just need to say yes, because you get so few chances to write, so few chances to work. Your ability to have like health insurance and stuff is based on you getting jobs consistently. Your whole livelihood is you have to say yes. If someone comes and says, there's a thing, do you want to write it? You have to say yes.
Yeah.
And you have to say yes, knowing you'll probably get ignored, even after you've written it.
And this is my cynicism coming through, but I assume that in most cases, the money people, the upper level producers, they don't necessarily have love for this project either.
No.
Right? It's a popular thing, therefore we want to get our hands on it.
Yeah.
And so they don't necessarily mind if it gets changed or if it gets wonkied around.
They don't know the thing.
They're often the ones who are changing something because they're like, well, no, this needs more of a romance in it. That's what's going to get butts in the seats.
Yep.
And
I mean, that's why every fantasy show has been Game of Thrones since Game of Thrones. Creatives are good at creating the next trend. They're not consistently good at it, but the group of creatives will create the next trend if you let them. Executives tend to only be good at mimicking what has been a trend.
Yeah.
And it just never worked really for any of the other Game of Thrones, I don't want to say knockoffs because like there were good seasons, but they all wanted to be Game of Thrones because the people in charge are like, this must be like Game of Thrones. I mean, that's been my gripe with the Wheel of Time that I'm a producer on. That from episode 1, like, why are you not making the Wheel of Time? Why are you making why is there a giant lens filter on the front filtering this into Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
It's not going to work. It doesn't match the source material. People already have Game of Thrones. They like Game of Thrones. Give them something new. But so that is a huge factor to it. People are too hard on the writers of these properties when the system and what the system is demanding is the actual culprit.
Yeah, it's an interesting framing to say that creative people can create trends and money people just follow trends.
Yes.
And what we have built for ourselves is a system where in order to create anything, you need money. Therefore, real creativity becomes very, very hard.
That encapsulates what I would say. Just, I'm closer to Hollywood than most. I'm not an insider. I am, if anything, I'm the person who's sticking his head into the room at the side of the room. I can see inside, but I can't see to the center. I would assume it's the same for you. You've been on a film set, but it was a low-budget film set, and things like that. And, I mean, far be it for us to sit here in armchair, what is wrong with Hollywood? But from our limited perspective, this feels like a major flaw. And I think it's borne out by how poorly these properties that do it this way have been received recently.
So when are we going to get the kind of proletariat revolution in movie making that we've already had in writing? Anyone who wants to can write something and throw it up on Amazon, and we've seen incredible success with that. We are removing as many gatekeepers as possible between creator and audience. And with movies,
so here's the problem.
Maybe just by their nature as a collaborative medium, you can't get rid of all those gatekeepers.
They're just so expensive, even the cheap ones, right? Where are those people? They are all making Shark Exorcist for Tubi. Right? They're the people who can scrounge together $500,000, which is a ridiculous amount of money when you think about it, but just so cheap. And that's all you can get, right? And the writers that you can get for that have to be paid low-budget film writing credits, which means you're not going to get the people who have a lot of experience because those people want to get the writing credits on. If your film isn't going to get made, or it's going to get changed anyway, you want the credit on the thing that WGA rules say has to pay you this threshold, not this much lower threshold because of budget.
Yeah.
And so you're not going to get the good writers. And if you happen to be really good and you do that, you will be given a big budget film and you will graduate out in one movie. And then you will be given like 1 or 2 tries to helm big movies. But then that's another problem. There's not really an apprenticeship there. You make one cool indie film, and I can tell you from my early days writing, you get occasionally good before you get consistently good, right?
Yeah.
And then suddenly you're helming big budget films, and there's not an in between. That's but yeah, I don't know. That's from my perspective, that's what's making this all go poorly, and I don't know if there's a way. There might be a way for those who can, like people always tell me, Brandon, you should crowdfund and make your films. There might be a way that people can do that, but my films are like, you still can't make Mistborn for less than $100 million.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to crowdfund $100 million film. That's just too much chance of failure, of me wasting everybody's money and things like that. And so, I need the system if I'm going to make Mistborn There are other
Yeah.
things that I can make that I won't need the system, and maybe I can, get 10 million from Blumhouse and go film something cool that's lower budget. But for my big things, I don't know. That's yeah.
And you touched on it a little bit. This is where, Dan, some of that answer I feel like has already been found in like social media. We have kids. The one I'd highlight is Kane Pixels, 19-year-old. Oh no, he was 17 when he made this little tiny 10-minute backroom footage. 62 million views over a year, I think. And they immediately hired him, won a $20 million production for a film. Because they're like, you can get more money off of doing this YouTube thing that we like, and then we'll hook you up and try and get you into Hollywood.
I guess that would be the other problem. YouTube pays crap.
Yeah.
And like that got 62 million views, right?
Yep.
A television show that got 62 million people watching it. Guess what the ad spend you could get out of an advertisement,
So much.
right? That's Super Bowl levels, right?
Yeah.
We're talking, each ad spot is $1 million. On Google, that ad spot is making you pennies.
Yeah.
And it's odd that Google hasn't cracked this when television could crack this. Google has not been able to convince the advertisers to spend the kinds of money that NBC could for the exact same views.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big problem, right? Like,
Google
should have been able to, and I'm way outside this room, right? But it's baffling to me that the Tonight Show can get, $50,000 per ad, but if you want a show for someone getting the same views at a demographic that's more valuable to you on YouTube for the same kind of content, $2,000.
Yeah.
If that. Yeah. So the fact that that ads just can't support this sort of thing like they could on television is another big problem.
Well, you know who's not a problem?
Ben.